There are over 100,000 people who immigrate to New Zealand every year with the intention to make New Zealand their home, leaving behind everything they know as normal day-to-day life and having to learn new ways of doing things, new norms, new cultures, and different values. There are many people who struggle with this transition and find it challenging to adjust and settle, so they can call and make New Zealand their home. The purpose of this podcast is for me to share my journey and our challenges with the hope that you can learn from me and my family and have a softer landing. There will be good days and bad days, but with time, more good days. I believe we have made the right choice for our family. I want to try and help you do the same, but hopefully with a softer landing. This is Soft Landing, and I am your host, Brett Corlett.
Welcome to this podcast, designed for anyone thinking about preparing for or who has just immigrated to New Zealand. Subscribe now so you never miss an episode. Drawing from his personal experience, this series will guide you through the process of preparing for your move and helping you navigate the challenges of immigration.
Hey everybody, so welcome back to my podcast. It's really awesome to have you guys join me again, especially those that are joining me on a regular basis. I'm trying something a little different today. What I'm going to be doing going forward is I'm over and above just doing a recording of me doing my podcast when I'm doing interviews. I'm going to give it a bit of a go at also doing a recording when I'm doing the podcast. So if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or whatever else, it'll still just be normal audio. But if you do want to, for those that prefer watching somebody speaking, I do put my podcast on my YouTube channel. So I'm going to give this attempt of trying to record myself talking through my podcast. So a little nervous this morning trying to do that. So hopefully it goes okay. For those of you that haven't listened to my podcast and you're joining us for the first time, I just want to thank you for joining. It's nice to have you join us. I do encourage you, if you could go to the first episode, start listening to at least the first few. It just gives you a little bit of an understanding of who I am and why I'm sharing and what I'm trying to achieve with my podcast, which pretty much is just trying to help all immigrants make New Zealand home. That's really what I'm trying to do, is just help us settle and, just make it feel like we belong. That's really what it's all about. And I do that by sharing my journey, sharing my story and what I've learned and trying to pay it forward to help others. With that, what I'm going to try and talk about a little bit today is it's a topic that, look, I'm not an expert, but let me get into the topic. It's immigration grief is the topic that I want to talk about today. So I'm not a professional, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist. So really, please, this is coming from my point of view. It's coming from my experiences, what my wife and I have experienced over the time that we've been here. And I've done a little bit of research into it and looking it up. So it's a real thing. Immigration grief really is a real thing. This is, immigration is not for sissies. I'm telling you, I've gone through a lot of different things in my life, and immigration is probably be one of the toughest. It hasn't been easy. And it's still, I have good days and I have bad days. There's some days that I'm feeling on top of the world and I think, geez, I made the best decision for our family. I'm so, I'm like pumped. This is awesome. But I still get those days where little things will happen. And I'm like, oh shit, man, I wish I was back home. And why have I done this? And you still question. And that's 2.5 years in. So this is normal. That's why I wanted to do a bit of research and share a couple of things around actual immigration grief to let you know that if you're experiencing some of these things, it's normal and you're not alone. Okay, this is a normal thing to go through. I want to share a little bit about the stages of immigration grief. So there's a couple of stages that you're going to go through. And we started doing the research and reading through those. That makes sense now. Now I get it. And then also just share not only just a little bit of my story that relates to this and some experiences, but also just sharing some practical ways to navigate it so we can work through this and actually not go down that rabbit hole. So really hopefully apply those practical ways of navigating it to get through it. So that's really what I wanted to talk about a little bit today. Starting off with immigration grief. Well, what is immigration grief? What is it all about? Well, immigration grief, according to my notes, it's a type of mourning. And it's not mourning the loss of a person. It's mourning the loss of a place that's familiar, that you're from, a lifestyle that you've been used to or that you've grown up in. It's like it was a version of yourself in that place, in that country. So it really made sense to me that, okay, so yeah, just like you grieve the loss of a person, you're grieving the loss of what was familiar, your home, the people you've left behind, what your normal cultures and how you grew up, and you're having to start pretty much all over again, and it's rough. It's not easy. So some of those types of loss that you would be feeling is you could feel loss of home. So that's little things. It's from the smells of back home. It could be sounds that you miss. I can tell you, I went for a walk this morning, so yeah, I needed my cup of coffee, and we were out of milk this morning. So my wife told me, "No, you got to go to the dairy and buy some milk." So there was no way as I was going to try and get through this podcast without my cup of coffee. So I walked to the dairy, but walking to the dairy and it's early morning. I'm from South Africa, and I'm used to waking up with so many bird sounds. And yes, some people think the hardy-daws. Yes, maybe the hardy-daws I don't miss as much, but lots of bird sounds. And just walking to the dairy this morning, I noticed little birds and everything flying around, but they're not the same birds, and they don't make the same sounds. And you probably think, oh, geez, Brett, you're nuts. But it's different. I miss the sounds of when we used to go to the bush. And when I say go to the bush, there's this type of smell and sounds of the bush. You don't get that here. Another one, I spoke to my friend that's from South Africa and also moved here, and I've also obviously spoken to my wife, is thunderstorms. The sound of a proper thunderstorm and that smell of the rain and everything post a thunderstorm, or even when it's just approaching and the wind and everything of the thunderstorm about to hit, especially in Johannesburg, we used to get those afternoon thunderstorms. You miss those little things, and it reminds you of home. We don't get thunderstorms like that. You don't have the same birds and wildlife here. So it's little things that you start missing from back home. Loss of community is the next one that you'll have and that's your friends and that's your family. And, that's a tough one. I know it's really hard for me. I miss just being able to sometimes, I didn't think I would miss it as much, is going and giving my sister a hug or giving my mom a hug. You're definitely, well, in our case, my wife and I are alone. It's just us. It's tag team between the two of us. And I'm not saying we don't support each other. Of course, I still get hugs from my wife and love her and my kids and everything like that. But you do miss that support structure. You do miss those other family members that you have left behind. Friends. You miss some of your friends that just know you, that you've spent years together and they just know who you are. You don't have to now start all over again and trying to explain to a person why you act the way you do or who you are or where you come from, especially if they don't come from the same background. You miss that community that you grew up with, your friendship circles and your family. So there's a loss for that. Loss of identity. When you've grown up in a community and you've grown up with people in your home country, they get to know who you are and what they expect from you. And you almost have a place in that community. So maybe you were the go-to person for certain things, or your home was the house that everybody went to for social events and everything like that. So that's what you became known for. And it was the norm and it just expected. But when you move to another country, you're starting all over again. People don't know you're the person that likes to entertain. You've got to show that you're the person that likes to entertain. First, you've got to make the friends to be able to entertain them, but that's an example. Other people don't know you as the go-to people for certain things. So you've got to, it's almost like you're building from day dot all over again. So it's tough starting from zero, and trying to build that identity again, almost all over again. So it's a loss of familiar cultures. So, it could be from the basic humor. I find it often, even in the workplace, there's a lot of Kiwi friends and they're very friendly and everything like that. But sometimes they'll crack a joke and it does go over your head and you feel out, you don't understand because it's something that's relating and relative to New Zealand and it's their past. So they'll crack a joke about, I don't know, it's people that were around in the 80s or when they grew up in the 80s and 90s or whatever. It's relevant Kiwi people that they're referring to, or places in New Zealand that doesn't resonate with me. I didn't grow up here, so it goes over your head. So sometimes you feel, oh, geez, I miss being able to have a bit of a banter and a chat and a yarn with people from South Africa, and you'd be able to crack jokes and you all just get it and you're on the same page. It could be holidays that you miss, certain holidays. Maybe those certain holidays is like for us, it's Christmas. Not that we don't celebrate Christmas here, and they do. They do celebrate Christmas and Easter and the same sort of holidays for us, so that's okay. But I miss Christmas was a time when family would all be around. I know growing up, it was always about all your cousins and your aunts and your uncles and everybody getting together, grannies and grandpas and everybody at Christmas. Christmas was a time to bring all family together. Now when family is dispersed across the world, literally, we've got family now in Australia, South Africa, here, everybody's all over the show. You don't come together as a one big family anymore. You just can't. It's expensive to get together with all the flights and all the rest of it. So now it's a smaller celebration together. That's hard. You miss that. I know I miss that immensely. I really do. I used to love having Christmas with all the family around, for example, and birthday celebrations, having family together. So it's a loss from missing that. Okay. It's little nuances in the culture that's a difference. Loss of, I've put here, loss of competence. So that's simple tasks that are just slightly different here. And I'll give you an example, and you'll probably laugh at me, and there's two. Maybe I'll give two. And I've got videos on it now because I wanted to, like, oh, geez, I don't want anybody else to have to go through what I went through. But let me explain what it is. One, filling up your car with petrol. And two, it was pumping your tires for your car. Man, it should be something that's simple. But growing up in South Africa, when you wanted to fill up with fuel, you pull up into the garage and there would be a petrol attendant. And you would talk to him and you'd want to know, what do you want to fill it up with? Super, diesel, whatever. And you just tell him to fill it up. And that's what he would do. And he'd wash your window while you have a chat or whatever else. That was the norm. Here, no. It's self-service. Now, when you've never done it before, and then you see everybody else, including these youngsters that are driving at the age of 16, where it's just simple, pull up to the garage and they know what they're doing, and you don't, you feel silly, you feel that you're incompetent. And sometimes you're just too proud to want to walk over to someone and say, hey, please can you show me, I know I'm a 40-year-old male, but please can you show me how to fill my car with fuel? I mean, you feel like an idiot. The other thing was just pumping your car tires. Now, back in South Africa, yeah, you could get the attendant to help you with it. But what my thing was, it wasn't difficult to pump a car's tires. It's just you would usually pull up next to the petrol pump and the air pressure would be next to the petrol pump. So while you're filling up with fuel, you could go around and pump your tires. Now, I pulled up to the garage here. Yeah, okay, now I've learned how to fill with fuel, but now I want to pump my tires. Do you think I could find the air pressure? It wasn't where it was meant to be. It wasn't next to the petrol pump. So I got so frustrated, and yeah, I probably could have just walked over to somebody and asked, but you feel like an idiot. You feel something so small is now frustrating you immensely that you cannot do it, that you just give up and you go home. And then my poor old wife had to hear it. I'm like, so sick of this. I wish we were back home. It was so much easier just to be able to pump the tires. And you get so upset from something that's so basic. I've since learned, okay, here at the garage, they have the tire pressure away to the left, to the side, away from the petrol pump. So you actually have to go park the car on a separate side to pump your tires. Okay, so I've learned, and I've done a video on that and how to do it. But it's those little things, loss in competence, where something simple that you knew how to do your entire life is now different. And you have to relearn all over again. And a lot of this learning has happened very quickly. And it can be overwhelming, and it's a sense of loss, and you get frustrated. Loss of security. And what I mean by loss of security, and I know thinking South African, you think, oh no, that was one of the best things that you've lost, is that you didn't have to be living in Fort Knox and whatever else. No. What I mean by loss of security is knowing how life works, okay? Knowing what your future holds. You've done this. It's a huge, big leap of faith. You've done your pros and cons, and you know that this is why you've chosen to be here. But it's still daunting. You're still worried. Geez, I'm going to be able to catch up on my pension. Am I going to make sure that I have enough money saved up by the time I'm 60, 65, so I'm not a burden on my children? Am I going to be able to make enough money to be able to afford to finally buy a home one day so that I can plant roots and actually make it feel like home. So I've got my own house that belongs to me, that I can go drill a hole in the wall and not worry what the landlord is going to think. So it's that loss of security. Whereas back home, we know we owned a home and we're pretty certain that we had certain things in place for our future by the time we were going to turn 60, 65. So you've made these decisions, and it's a loss regarding that security. So these things are real. It really does build up, and it's stuff that you've got to deal with. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of what immigration grief is all about. The next thing was saying, okay, so now we know what immigration grief is. What are those stages of immigration grief? So no surprise, the first one is definitely your honeymoon phase. So when you first get here, and I definitely experienced this, everything is new, everything's exciting, everything's different. It almost feels like you're on a holiday, new experiences, you're soaking it up, you're just, I don't know, you're like so happy to be here that you've actually finally made it. And all you see is the beauty. You see not only the beauty of living, in my case, next to the coast and the beautiful sunrises and seeing how clean everything is, and the grass is literally greener, the way the electricity stays on, all the traffic lights are working, there's no potholes, you're feeling like, wow, I'm in utopia. So you're really in that honeymoon phase in the beginning. But eventually, once you've been here for a little bit, you get past the honeymoon phase, and now it starts going into the next phase, which is a little bit more around discomfort or culture shock. So that's when these little things those little differences start niggling at you, and then they start getting under your skin. There's those little things that look, oh, this is so frustrating. And I know if any of my Kiwi friends are listening, they might be happy with me saying this one, but what I've experienced as an example is one of those little things where back in South Africa, if you had a problem in the workplace or with a person or whatever else, we are very direct. You will someone just tell them, you'll just tell the person, geez, you're being a pain in the butt. You're bugging me, or that really irritated the crap out of me, or whatever. You direct and you talk about it, and you just deal with it, and then you move on and you go have a beer after or just chat or whatever. That's just how we were as a culture. Is you don't, this is going to sound terrible, I've got to be careful with my language, but you don't mince your words, and you don't ignore things. You just kind of deal with it, and you be upfront about it, and you be very direct about it. And that's just how we are. Now the thing here I found is they're not as direct, not at all. Okay, sometimes it even could come across as they like superficial. It's like they're not, and I say this in respect, is almost like they're an ostrich and they put their head in the ground and they just won't deal with it and it'll go away. And it doesn't. And that's how we were. But we're very forceful as a culture, meaning South Africans, and just very direct in trying to deal with stuff. Now, I kind of miss that. Okay, so that's what made me feel uncomfortable, because now I've had to adapt. I've had to learn, well, that's not how things work here. That's not the culture here. That's going to not help the situation if I act in the way that I used to back home. That worked. It won't work here. You got to start realizing, okay, it made me feel uncomfortable. It just highlighted how I was going through that discomfort factor, where those nigglies were in place. And there's a couple, and everybody will have their own stories of the little things that are bugging them. But you start moving into that stage where you're now getting a bit niggly, and you're missing the way things were done back home, okay? Because it's different. The next stage, you'll start getting into sadness or homesickness, okay? So that one's tough, and this can last different periods of time for different people, but this is a heavy one. You can be missing people, you can be missing places, it could be routines. There's so many different things that you could be missing. I can tell you big ones for me, and I'll share some of my wife's as well. But mine, we're in winter at the moment, so we're in August now, and usually every July, back in South Africa in winter, we would always go on a bush holiday, and we were blessed enough and lucky enough to have timeshare in the bush. So every year from when my kids were tiny, and even my wife, when she was growing up, she went to the bush, same timeshare with her family. So it was almost like it was something we did as a family, was looking forward to that bush holiday every winter. And I missed that. But there's little things I missed. I missed the family coming together, because I'd invite my sister and her family, or Amy's sister and her family, and we'd all get together and it was an 8-sleeper, and we would have kids all around, whatever else, and all being in the middle of the bush with no technology around. It was cold and crisp, but you had that smell of the bush that I was talking about a little bit earlier. You'd hear the sounds of the bush, like the jackals in the morning and even in the late afternoons. And I missed that, okay? And especially when it got cold here and it's in the middle of winter, it'd be like, oh, this is the time we'd be planning and going through to the place we used to go to was Mabulla. We'd be going to Mabulla. We'd be going on a holiday in the bush as a family. And you would miss that. And there's other families that we're friends with on Facebook, and they still back home, and they go on that holiday in the same place we used to go, and they would share. And as nice as it is for them to share, it would still make me heart sore. You'd be like, oh man, I miss that. I wish we still could do that. So there's those little things that will make you homesick. So now that's one example. The other example that's really tough is family. And I can see it with my wife. I'm not saying I don't miss family as much as she does, but I can see it's hurting her a lot more, especially with her mom. Her mom is back home. The mom used to stay with us. We had a cottage that she used to stay in on our property before we moved to New Zealand. And we used to see her every day because she was there and she helped with the kids, and the kids knew Granny. Granny was just there all the time. And her mom was always there. Now her mom's not, and she's back at home, and we've had to put her into a assisted living home, and she's alone. And it breaks my wife's heart that she can't be there for her mom, especially as she's getting older now. And I know that's a big one with parents that you leave behind, because they're getting older, and they're going to get to a stage where they need you, but now you're not there to physically help them. And that can make you feel guilty. Not only the guilt, but you're sad. You just want to be there, and you can't be. And that's hard. It's really, really hard with missing your parents. The other one is also siblings. So like I mentioned, missing my sister, and missing my nephews and nieces and cousins growing up together and getting to know each other. They're missing out on that. The family's broken up. As much as you do try and stay in touch and you do video calls and use technology and whatever else, I miss that family actually being together. And you take it for granted. You don't even realize it when you're back there in South Africa. There was times when I'd be like, oh, my little sister, my sister's younger than me, and you'd be like, oh, she can be a pain in the ass sometimes, and she's bugging you. But now I miss that. Okay, I really, really miss that. So that's a tough one. Another one in our family is my sister-in-law passed away last year in January. So that's been a huge one. That's been tough. We couldn't go, and especially my wife couldn't go back to be with her sister when she was sick before she passed, to help her and comfort her. And we couldn't send my wife home to be there for the funeral. That's heartbreaking. This is some of the stuff you have to deal with immigration, and it's hard. It's really hard. And not only not having my wife being able to be home back in South Africa with her sister when she was sick, and obviously when she passed away, and being at the funeral and couldn't be back home for that, there's also my nephew that's now left behind. We couldn't be there to comfort him. Yeah, you can do as much as you want online and try, but it's not the same as being there. These are things that make you sad, and this can really depress you. It's not an easy thing to deal with. So definitely, third stage, sadness and homesickness, it's something you got to deal with, and it's not an easy thing to work through. The next one is you start moving to the stage of eventually starting to move into a little bit of an adjustment phase. Okay, so you're starting to find your rhythm. You're starting to get used to your new home. So you're starting to adapt. So that phase is, I think I'm kind of in that phase now. And in the last one, which I'll go into shortly, where you're starting to find a rhythm and a way that things work. Because then the last phase is integration. Now you've started accepting, you've adapted, you're comfortable in your new environment. You not only have accepted that you've moved, you've taken the good things from your past and your previous country, and you've now adapted to the new things, and you're totally integrated. So I feel I'm kind of like in between the adjusting and the integrating. That's kind of where I am. So just to recap on those stages, the honeymoon phase is the awesome phase in the beginning. Then you move into that discomfort and culture shock and those little things, nigglies that drive you nuts. The sadness and homesickness, that's a tough one. It's really, really tough. And everybody has their story on that. Then where we finally want to move towards is that adjusting and starting to accept and then integrating. So those are the stages that you work through with immigration grief. A big thing that I want to try and share is that you need to, over and above understanding what immigration grief is all about and understanding the phases or the stages that you go through, so that you can almost acknowledge when you're going through it and go, now I know what Brett was talking about. Yes, okay, so this is normal. I'm going through these stages. It's acknowledging that this is real. Okay, this is not, and some people might progress through the stages quicker than others, great, but we're all different and we're all on a different journey. The important thing is to know that there is such a thing as immigration grief, and it's normal. Okay, and a big thing is to acknowledge that you're going through this. Acknowledge that there is such a thing. Just ignoring it and trying to push it down, and like some men or South Africans like to do, just ignore it. Be that ostrich, put your head in the sand and just pretend it'll go away. It doesn't. Okay, you need to deal with it. Okay, it doesn't mean because you chose to move here and we chose to put ourselves in this situation that you must stop feeling sad or feeling grief or whatever else, because it's like, hey, Brett, you did this to yourself, so suck it up and move on. No, it's okay to grieve the past. It's okay to grieve what you've lost. Okay, but what's more important is that it simply means that you just valued what you left behind. Okay. I loved it. I loved a lot about South Africa. I loved family back in South Africa. There's a lot that I will miss, and I do value that. Okay. So it's okay to know that you've left it behind and you do miss it. It's okay. Okay. But the big thing is, if you don't acknowledge it and you don't acknowledge that you're going through these stages of grief, you're going to start being that irritable person that nobody wants to be around. You'll bring that home into your family. You'll start biting at each other and snapping at each other. It's not a good space to be in. Or you could withdraw. You don't want to get out into community. You don't want to get involved with people. You could go down that dark rabbit hole, going to that dark space if you just don't acknowledge it and deal with it. If you're constantly comparing New Zealand to your home country, but in a negative way, almost saying, but when we were back in, it was better, and when we were back, they didn't do this, and that's not a good space to be in. And why I'm sharing this is you want to catch yourself when you're in that space, realizing this is what Brett meant. This is what he meant by immigration grief. I'm experiencing it. I'm in this stage of grief. I am that person. I'm starting to be irritable. I'm starting to be withdrawn, or I'm constantly comparing and wishing I was back there. It's catch yourself. And this is where you've got to say, okay, now how do I deal with it? How do I move forward and get myself out of this rut, out of this mindset, so that I can move forward and make this work? Okay, I've chosen to be here. Now, how am I going to make it work? How am I going to deal with these emotions, these thoughts, these feelings, and everything that I've got at the moment so that I can move forward? What am I going to do? And that's where I want to jump into some of the practical ways to navigate through these feelings and these emotion, these feelings of grief, immigration grief. Okay. And again, I'm not a therapist. I'm not. Okay. This is the research I've done. It started resonating with me because I felt this. I've gone through these stages. Sometimes I'm still even go back to these stages, but luckily my wife and I talk, and she'll catch me in it, call me on it, and say, hey, you're being that grumpy old man again, and you're moaning and you whatever. What's going on? How are we going to deal with it? We got to move forward. We can't be like this. Or she might have bad days, but it's being there to try help each other and call it out and try help each other. Okay. My mindset is we've chosen to be here and we're going to make it work. There's no going back. I'm not going back. I want to make this work. I can see how New Zealand, I can see the pros. I can see that we've still made the right decision. I can see that this is the right decision for my children. I can see a future here for them. And I want to make this work. I really, really do. And I'm going to give it my all and not give up. So getting to that is the practical ways to navigate immigration grief. The first thing is stay connected. Okay, so what I mean by stay connected is those family and friends that you've left behind, try figure out a way to stay connected to them. And my wife is brilliant with this, okay? And it's a non-negotiable for her, and it's a routine now. And it's every Sunday morning, she will make sure she does a video call with her mom. And it's not just her. I promise you that call goes on for sometimes 2-3 hours, that she'll be walking around with a phone, doing a video call with her mom, to where she's walking around the house, showing her what's going on. She talks to the kids. So my daughter will talk to Granny on the phone and everything like that. She'll even give Granny a hug. So she takes the phone, she puts it against her chest, and she gives it a good snuggle and says, "I'm loving you, Granny." So she tries to do that. They walk around this morning, I saw, and they'll show pictures on our TV. So we've got these Google pictures that goes through of stuff that we've taken photos of, and show her those. To the point of even walking around in the kitchen. And if we made banana bread, she'll show Granny that to try to feel that she's still part of it, and just talking to her and connecting with her. It's important to have those regular calls. Figure out a way to stay connected to those loved ones. Okay. We've got WhatsApp groups that we share stuff on. I still, when I have bad days, I phone my sister. I go for a drive in the car, and I get her on the phone, and I say, "Geez, I just want to vent. I just want to, just have somebody just to talk to." Sometimes it's good to have that. So work out those ways of having those regular calls. Have it as non-negotiable. Stay connected. The other one is creating some sort of rituals. Okay, what I mean by rituals is, no, we're not going to do hocus pocus and whatever else. No, I'm meaning by try find something that's familiar. So for us, it's food. Okay, food generally resonates with a lot of people, with their culture, where they come from. And we're very blessed here in New Zealand. There's a lot of South African shops, so there is opportunity to get a lot of familiar tastes of back home and cook with that to try and get those familiar smells and tastes, and just, it can help. It really, really can help. I know that we enjoy going back to the SA shops. It's like a real swell. I know it can be expensive, so I know it can depend on budget, but it seriously can help us. Where, for example, we bought my kids and my daughter, when she came across here, she was 2, turning 3. So she's almost been here longer than she was back in South Africa. And I know she's not going to remember, if anything, back anything about South Africa. Whereas my son, he's older, so he at least remembers. But we go to the South African shop and we buy zoo biscuits. Now, we grew up with zoo biscuits. Now, I know a lot of other listeners that are not South African won't be able to relate to this, but it's little biscuits that they have pictures of animals on them. And a lot of those animals are South African type of animals, like rhinos, elephants. So it reminded us of the bush. And I love that, because it's something we could share with our kids. So it's something we could still pass on. So it was nice to do that. Another one was mini cheddars. Man, my kids love mini cheddars. Who knew mini cheddars was a South African thing? I could carry on the list. Fish paste. I love fish paste. Okay, so it's so nice to be able to get fish paste. And I know fish paste was even a problem in South Africa at one stage. But getting fish paste, it's just familiar tastes of back home. And it reminds me of growing up and my mom making us toast, putting fish paste on toast. Oh, now you're going to say gross. She used to take the fish paste toast and dunk it in her coffee and eat it that way. Bovril, another one. She used to do that and dunk it in her coffee. But it's so nice to have those things that just help you create those little rituals of stuff with food that you can cook regularly, buy regularly. It reminds you back home. That's one way. Another way is celebrating holidays. A holiday that is so important to us, I mentioned already, is Christmas. Christmas is huge for us, okay? Now, I can't get all my family here together like we used to have with Christmas, but we can still do the rituals that we used to do with Christmas. So we've got Elf on the Shelf that we used to do. My wife puts tons of effort into that. So we've got Elf on the Shelf that does crazy things leading up to Christmas. We used to decorate our house with Christmas lights outside, and it really looked like a Christmas tree outside. So we fit in a little bit here in New Zealand because they seem to do the same thing. But in South Africa, we were unique. Not a lot of people did it. I brought all my Christmas lights with me, and I'm so grateful I did, because I still decorate the house. And it's something that my kids will remember. It's something that we did back home in South Africa, but we still do it here. It's something that's part of us as a family. It's something that we do. It's a tradition that we've carried on. So it helps create that tradition, that ritual that just reminds us of home. So that's important. So think of those things and make sure that you try and put them in place. Whatever those traditions or rituals or whatever they used to do at home, try still do it here with your family, especially for your kids. Join communities. Communities could be sports clubs, it could be running clubs, it could be church, it could be online immigration groups, just for support for like-minded people that you kind of relate to on some sort of level, be it from a common sport that you play, or be it a faith that you both share, or be it that you're immigrants and you're together. And that's one of the reasons I'm trying to share on Soft Landing is I'm trying to help as much as it helps me. It's almost like journaling for me. It's unpacking what I've gone through. It reminds me, geez, Brett, you went through this. Geez, those were the tough things that you've overcome. And it reminds me, geez, you should be grateful. You've done a lot, be proud of yourself. Don't give up. But not only that, it reminds me, I know that I'm giving back and I'm trying to help others as well. But genuinely, it helps me as well, especially when you get other people, you guys out there reaching out to me and giving me comments, and not only giving me comments, but going onto my link and actually clicking on ask and sending me emails, or the clicking on the shout outs and giving me a type of, this is what I went through. This is what, this is what I struggled with, or can you help me with this? It helps me because I feel like, okay, I'm helping others, and it just gives me that keep going, don't give up. So that's a community that I'm trying to build. What it's also enabled is I've started to get to know a lot of other people that have started reaching out in New Zealand. So I'm starting to get a bit of a community. So it's really helping me even find friends and like-minded people. So it's really helping find those communities, reach out, find your people. Okay, you have to find your people. Build small wins. So what I mean by this is it could be for some people starting to adopt the slang. So you're trying to say sweet as and bro and mate and whatever else. I'm not quite there. I do the sweet as every now and again. I do try that, but I haven't quite progressed to calling everybody, hey bro, hey mate. I'm not quite there. I'm still the bud and the dude. I don't know. We'll get there, but try to adopt some of the slang. Get comfortable with the way that they do things here. Using public transport, for example, how they use the public transport. Getting used to the way they drive so slow, and just being part of the culture and the way that they do things. Finding your favorite, what do you call it? Coffee shops or restaurants, or just getting out there and starting to have building little small wins with the little things that are now becoming your favorite thing to do here and becoming your norm, and just making you feel comfortable and integrated. Try to celebrate those, find those, think of those, okay? If it's really, really challenging and you're really having a tough time, seek support, okay? Don't suffer in silence, for lack of a better way of explaining it, okay? If you really need help, go to your GP, talk to them, for example, and say, hey, I'm really struggling. This immigration thing is really stressing me out a whole lot more. I've got a whole lot more anxiety. I need help. Whether he gives you medication to help, or he refers you to somebody, a counselor or somebody that you can speak to. If it is really that bad, please don't let it get to a level where you're that depressed that you're going down that deep, dark hole, okay? There's nothing wrong with going and seeking help. Please do that, okay? Start with going to your GP. There's also online, you can go online, find places that you can contact. I'll even share some of them. I know with Jono, he shared some links in one of my previous episodes of support groups and everything like that. So I'll definitely share those again, but please seek help if it's something that you need. Don't be too proud to do that. Rather help. Your family deserves to have the best you. Okay. So if you need the help, please seek it. Balance the past and the future. What I mean by balancing the past and the future is not in a negative way, like I was speaking about earlier, where you constantly refer to the past and the country you come from. Oh, I'm so much better there and this and that. No, I'm not meaning that. Rather remember the good things of back home or the country you come from and celebrate those, but also find the good things of being here and remind yourself, balance that out. Keep the best parts of back home, 100%, but build something new here, okay? Have that mindset that I'm here now. I am going to become a Kiwi. I am going to integrate. I am going to make this work. And when you got those little wins, just keep celebrating. Keep reminding yourself why you've done this. You've got to change that mind. Mindset is huge. When you're on the wrong frame of mind, I believe, it just attracts more negativity. It really does. You've got to be in that mindset that I'm not going to give up. Call yourself out when you're going and you're spiraling. Call yourself out. Pull yourself out of it. Get your mind right, thinking about the positive thing. If it means like what I have to do, sometimes I say, pull myself towards myself, go for a walk and just think it through, breathe, get out in nature, get some sunlight, and start remembering it's not so bad. It's not so bad. You can deal with this. How can you deal with it? Even if it means sometimes I listen to different podcasts or I listen to my audiobooks, I listen to something that is mindset books, whatever, that'll help me, or podcasts of different people that I'm listening to that helps you get your mindset right, so that I can go, okay, pull yourself out of this rut break. So by the time I get back home, I can be a better version of me for my family. They don't have to experience that angry, irritable, frustrated, going down into a dark place type person, which I know I can be. Okay. And that just makes it even harder for the rest of the family. So call yourself on it, and figure out ways to get yourself out of that hole. So just to recap, so those are some of the practical ways of navigating and dealing with immigration grief. So there's that staying connected, like my wife does with her mom back home, really, and make it a non-negotiable. Figure out how to stay connected with the family that you and your loved ones abroad. Create those rituals and those just those routines or those traditions so that they can keep going. Okay. Join communities, so like religious groups, etc. Get a church or sports clubs, gyms. Join those communities. Celebrate and build those small wins. Okay. Seek support if you need it. Please don't suffer alone. And then balance the past positives from the past with the positives that you're making now in New Zealand. So I wrote this down. I was just saying, grief is a sign of love for the people and places that shaped you. And love doesn't disappear just because you moved. Okay, so just remember that. It's okay to miss home. It's okay to miss your old life. And I say old life because you're kind of like starting again, okay? But try and find the positive in building your new life. Find the energy and excitement that this is a new beginning. You can learn from your old life. All the things that you potentially did wrong or wish you had done differently in your past, okay? For me, it's, oops, sorry about that. For me, in the past in South Africa, I was 40 when I came across here. That's 20 years of my career that, there's decisions I made. I'm trying to make different decisions, better decisions, learn from my past, come here with experience, say, hey, it took me 20 years to learn all of that back home. Now I know it. Let's fast track that here. Try get a different spin on it. You're coming here with experience. You've learned things. There's stuff that you've learned from your home country. I can tell you there's so much stuff that South Africans have learned, not just technical skills and skills in your trade, but how to have grit, how to push forward, how to, we've seen how some of the stuff has changed in South Africa, how we're like, well, don't let that happen again. How can we do things differently? There's so many different things you can learn from your past. So just build on that and enjoy being here and have that mindset of you're going to make this work. You're not going to give up. Remember your why coming here. Remember why you did this. Okay. And why I know it's my kids. Okay. So every time I'm having that bad day, I just look at my kids. I see how they're thriving. I can see how they are doing so well. And it's almost like a smack on the back of the head and go, Rick, you know what? Pull yourself towards yourself. Stop with this nonsense. Get over yourself. Figure out how you're going to get past this, whatever challenge it may be, because you're doing it for them. And you're making sure that, this is going to work for them and it's the right decision for them and their future. Okay. So I know I can get really preachy and whatever else, but that's not the intention here. The intention was more to let you know that there is such a thing as immigration grief. Okay. There are stages that you will go through. There is some practical ways of getting through this, but what's most important is call yourself on it and make sure that you try and pull yourself out of those negative mindsets, negative ways of doing things, to try to get yourself back on the right path to moving forward and making this work. That was what I'm trying to get across today. Okay. If this resonated with you, or if you know of anybody else that would benefit from hearing this, please share it with them. Okay. The intention is to try and reach and help as many immigrants as possible. And I need your help to do that. So please share it with them. And then I'd love to hear from you. That, like I said, that gives me the energy and inspiration to keep going. Because sometimes, it's hard to try and keep sharing and whatever else. And it's really like, Jesus, is anybody even hearing this? Is this even helping anyone? Do I must carry on doing this? So please share with me. Go on to click on the link that I've shared here, or the link can go down to, I've got a portion there that says ask or reach out. So go click on the link, go to ask, reach out, click on there, put in your details, send me an email, send me an info that sends me an email, and just share your experiences. Tell me what works for you, what doesn't, the challenges you've had. I'd love to hear from you, please. It just gives me the energy and the motivation. So with that, thanks for listening to me again. I really hope this is helping. And you guys must just keep well, keep safe, and we'll speak soon. Cheers.